Hi guys! Today we're going to be talking about embouchure. Now for those of you that don't know, your embouchure is the placement of the muscles around your lips, teeth, and tongue when you play an instrument, a wind instrument. The flute is a little different than any other wind instrument you might have been exposed to as far as embouchure goes, because we don't have anything pressing against our lips or anything in our mouth to create tension or resistance when we play. Tone production is made completely by our air cutting across the top of this, the edge of this tone hole, and about 60% actually goes over the instrument and doesn't go into the instrument at all, which I know seems kind of counterproductive, but it's the way we do things in the flute world. So that's why you get a lot of students who feel when they first put the flute to their face that they really have to shoot their upper lip out and kind of do one of these to get any sound, because they want all the air they can possibly get into the flute itself. And while this isn't necessarily a terrible idea, it doesn't create the sound you want. It's usually pretty airy. You have a good chance of overshooting a harmonic or even an octave. It has a tendency to be really flat. It's just not the best way to go about it, and it'll make things really difficult for you later. So it's much better to think of your lips being flat, like a pancake. There's a couple different exercises you can do to get to that point. The first is to pout. I know you can all do it. Make that face that you know that you're going to get whatever you want when you make it. So any tension, if you feel any at all, should be all in a downward motion on your face. You never want to make the tension up in your jaw, like when you smile. A lot of people will say smile when you play, but this creates really tight corners which can affect your resonance and tone later on as you progress as a player, and it's much harder to remove that later than add some tension in if you're having a little bit of problems, if that makes sense. So the pout can help you imagine your ability to control this lower lip. Now, this is another strange thing about tone projection on the flute. Our octaves are pretty much controlled by how much our lower lip sticks out. So if it's in just a little bit, likelihood is that your air direction, because your lower lip is in charge of which direction your air goes across the top of the flute. So if it's in, like we did before, that was a bit of an exaggeration for people that really want to put a lot of air through the instrument rather than get a lower note. But if you're aiming for, you're aiming your air down, your lower lip will be in just a little. I have a little bit of an overbite to begin with, so my natural face when I put the flute to my flute head joint to my face is that I aim down naturally. So I don't really have to change the way my lips are to get low notes at all. To get that mid-range, you really want the lips as even as you can make them. So your lower lip just a little out. For me, my upper lip just a little back, because I do have that overbite. It's just slight, but it's enough to cause problems on the flute. And then for upper notes, you really want that lower lip to be just a little out. So, because that'll cause the air when it goes across the tone hole to be high, and for you to get those upper partials on the flute. So that's just a little bit about tone production. There will be another video on just straight up tone production, but today we're just focusing on the embouchure. So there are several ways to get the embouchure that you want. We already discussed the pouting to help control your lips. You can also do that without like super pouting like that. One thing my teacher showed me is like to just be able to control the way your lips move without moving the rest of your face. Let's see if I can do it. You can see that, just making your lip move back and forth. That can be a good practice for it, for working those muscles. You'll notice that you have to be have quite a bit of space within your mouth, have your your upper palate lifted and your tongue kind of down in order to do that, and relaxed. That's a big thing about flute playing. Most of the time you don't have a lot of tension here. A lot of people think flute, it's small, you have to be really tense. That's not the case. It's okay if you have little pockets of your air in your mouth. You don't, I mean, obviously you don't want the animated tuba player puffed out cheeks like the. But if you have a little bit of air in here, that I find that helps with resonance in your tone. If you're playing a really difficult, long, technical passage where you're going to run out of air, it's okay to have those little pockets there too, because you can push those out at the end when you think you're out of breath. So those aren't a bad thing. You don't want a lot of tension. Flute players, for the most part, this is not what gets tired when we play. We're not like brass players or oboists in that regard. We have it pretty easy where our embouchure is concerned as far as fatiguing the muscles. Now, when you first begin, of course, you're going to be a little tired. You're working muscles that you're not used to. And like any exercise, if you get tired or you're feeling pain, take a break, get some drinks of water, go watch an episode of Adventure Time or Doctor Who or something, and come back to it later. You never want to overdo it. It's how you get injured. So just make sure that you are practicing, but you don't over-practice and cause yourself injury. Okay. So moving on to another way to find your embouchure point, if one of those techniques doesn't help, the next step is to say p. That should put your lips in pretty much the perfect position for when you play with your instrument against your face. This really gives you the sense of putting your lips even. That should be should put your lips pretty even, like the pancake level point that you want. You can also say poo, poo, which is funny and fun, but I don't necessarily encourage that one because it is a voiced syllable. So when you say it, it engages your vocal cords, and it is possible to make noise in your throat when you play the flute. It's an advanced extended technique called sing and play on the flute. It's seen in a lot of 20th and 21st century modern flute music. So it's not something that'll be in your average everyday band or orchestra lit. And it's a little more advanced. It can really help with loosening your throat up if you find you're playing really, really tight there. But it's not something that I would encourage you to do from right off the bat. It's easier to add those sort of things in later than it is to have you teach yourself that way and then try and take them out, if that makes sense. So once again, pa is a really good starting point for that. Now once you're ready and you feel like you kind of have it, you can put your flute to your face. What you want to do is you want to take this part of the lip plate and put it in the cradle of your, between your lower lip and your chin, right there, and then do the pout, and then slowly bring your bottom lip back in until you feel like it's even, and then and when you feel like you're ready to start producing a sound, if you think you've found your spot, it's easier to do. always suggest doing it any starting point with your embouchure and your tone production with just the head joint, because it's easier to make a sound, and it's easy because it has less distance to travel, and it's even easier if you put your hand against the end of the head joint, because that creates just a little bit of more resistance than you'll get with just the head joint. And so then you'll get the and let's see if I can do it from the side so you can see my lips. Alright, and now I'll do one in the way that I said before that a lot of beginners do, that you might find yourself doing because you feel like not enough air is going through your instrument. Notice how far out my top lip is and how airy and inconsistent the tone is. Once again, I'll show you the way it is when your lips are flat. Notice the difference. Likewise, for the upper partial, a lot of you may find that you have an easier time getting the higher notes out, and part of that is just the head joint, and part of it is the way that your facial muscles automatically work. Like I said, because of my slight overbite, the lower tones have always been easier for me. But for those of you that find the higher notes easier, that could partially be, like I said, the head joint, but also that your bottom lip comes out just a little bit, which is fine. We can work, if you're making a noise, we can work with it. So, like so. So I hope this is helpful. I hope that gives you a couple of ideas of where to start practicing as far as getting your embouchure under control is concerned. Another thing that once you start to be able to make a sound, I would encourage you to do, so that you really know where your embouchure is on your lip, is to make the sound, and then take the flute away from your face, put it back up, and that'll really show you where aiming within with your lips is perfect to make that best sound on your flute, and really get you to do that every time you put the flute to your face. So eventually you should be able to, oh, that was, and get a pretty consistent sound every time. Don't worry, it won't happen right away, but once again, the more you practice, the better you'll get. Thanks. Bye.